Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is John Campea, and this is the companion video. Now, every day on the John Campea Show and on Open Mic, we take live questions from you guys, the audience, but sometimes we don't get time to go into all the questions that get sent in. But I want to make sure you guys know that when you send in a question on those shows, they do get addressed. So that's why we do the companion video, to make sure all those questions we didn't get around to, they do get answered. So without wasting any time, let's dive into it. And the first question we're getting caught up on today comes to us from Lincoln Johnson, who writes, "Thank you for recommending Dirty Rotten Scoundrels the other day. I loved it." Oh, I'm so glad you did. One of my favorite things, actually, about doing these videos and doing these shows is being able to, number one, hear recommendations from you guys. But number two is to give recommendations to movies I love that maybe are movies you haven't given a chance to. Michael Caine, Michael Caine, Steve Martin. I mean, it's just one of my definitely my top 10 favorite all-time comedies. Easily, no problem. I just adore that movie so much, so good. The Emperor himself, Ian McDiarmid, is in that film as well. He plays Michael Caine's butler, part of the gang. It's just such a great movie, and I talked about it a lot last week. Obviously, you saw me talk about it, Lincoln. I'm glad you had a chance to check it out and that you enjoyed it. All right, Keith O'Neill writes, "Do you think word of mouth will help Solo?" I do. I have yet to read a fan review where they didn't like it. No, I mean, most people like the film, but I mean, regardless of that, the fact of the matter is, you can only recover so much. Will Solo have okay legs? I think it'll have okay legs, but the fact of the matter is, it's already starting so far behind the eight ball with that, let's just call it what it is, with that failure of an opening weekend. Now, for a lot of films, $83 million opening weekend, directors would kill to have an $83 million opening weekend, but not when you spend close to $300 million on producing the film, which is what Solo had to spend. So there's no other way around it. Financially, the film's a failure. And when you start off that far behind the eight ball, even if you have decent legs, it's not enough. So I do believe it'll have some okay legs, but it's not going to be enough. Solo, unfortunately, is going to be a movie that loses money. It's unfortunate. It's a good movie, but it's going to lose money. Make no mistake about it. It's going to end up losing money, and probably going to be the first Star Wars movie ever to lose money. Let's see. Dakota Barber writes, "Was rewatching Fellowship of the Ring the other day, and wow, what a great film. No kidding. Forgot how wonderful it was. Despite it being 2 hours and 58 minutes, it flies by." Yeah, well, I mean, there's something about The Lord of the Rings. First of all, those books are so big. You could make, I mean, each one of those books could be a 2 or 3 part movie. I mean, really, they could. So the fact that they made each one of those books into just one movie was kind of a huge task in and of itself. And, you know, there are many movies that 2 hours is too long. And there are some movies where 3 hours is just right. And The Lord of the Rings, I think those films, considering that each book's like this thick, The Lord of the Rings, 3 hours run length, I feel like this is one of the rare occasions where that's just right for it, because there's just so much mythology and so much going on in them that, and you're right, every time I watch one of those films, I'm like shocked and surprised by like, oh my God, I always know these are some of the best films ever made, but I forgot just how good they are. So yeah, it's always nice to get caught up with those. Hector Jeter writes, "Becoming a Patreon supporter this upcoming month." Oh, thank you so much, Hector. I really appreciate that. Thank you for joining it. That's great. Tennis Flato Mendoza writes, "Would you like the idea for a Boba Fett if they had Iron Boba?" Well, Boba Fett kind of is Iron Boba in very many ways, right? Brimick70 writes, "How much damage is the Solo box office going to do to the franchise regarding the Longview story they want to tell, perhaps with regards to Kira and Envis Nest?" I think those are dead. I really do. And I'm not going to give away any spoilers from what happens in the film, but just when you put out a movie that's going to lose tens and tens and tens and maybe $100 million, that's not something you rush out and do a franchise of. So honestly, I think whatever story threads that were being set up for potential further movies, I think those are done. I mean, I'm not hearing that from anybody. Nobody's told me that. I'm just guessing. I think those things are probably done. Matthew Pratt writes, "Did you ever see Killing Gunther with Arnold Schwarzenegger?" Yes, I did. It was a clever movie. Here's what I thought. There were a bunch of people who didn't like the trailers. I thought the trailers were quite funny. I liked the film. I didn't super love it. I didn't like it nearly as much as I thought I would, but I still found it to be a really enjoyable, interesting premise, perfect casting kind of movie. So I got a kick. I know a lot of people didn't like it. I got a kick out of the film. So I actually got a kick out. If you haven't seen it, you should be able to find it in some streaming service somewhere. Glitter Geek TV writes, rumors that episode 9 isn't going to tie things up. Thoughts? I don't believe that. The track record so far, the pattern is the 3rd episode. And I mean, they're not going to wrap everything up as in all these characters' stories are now completely told. We already heard from Lucasfilm that they're planning future movies with Rey and Finn and Poe. So we're not going to tie things up as in here's the end of their story, period. I think it will tie things up as far as the First Order goes, as far as Kylo Ren goes, as far as the narrative we've had up till this point. I think that's going to get wrapped up, but not wrapped up as in all these characters, this is the end of their stories. Because we already know they're going to do more movies with these characters. So I really wouldn't believe the rumors that they aren't going to tie anything up, because I do believe the First Order storyline is going to be tied up, but they're still going to be open-ended with the characters. I think the characters themselves will still be open-ended because they plan on making more movies with them moving forward. But I wouldn't believe any rumors that suggest that the First Order storyline isn't going to be tied up. I think they're definitely going to tie that up. That's just my opinion. Again, no one's telling me this. I don't have any insider information. That's just my guess at this point. All right. Folsom53 writes, did you ever ride the Great Movie Ride at Walt Disney World? Great ride that featured films like Wizard of Oz, The Searchers, and Casablanca. Nope, because I've never been to Disney World. I've been to Disneyland, that's in California, but Disney World in Florida, I've never had the privilege of being to. I was invited to go when I was at Star Wars Celebration a year or so ago, or 2 years ago, however long ago that was. But I didn't actually go to, I stayed in my hotel that night, so, because I was tired. But, so no, I didn't do it. I've never been to the park, so I've never been on the ride myself. Brim70 writes, why did the ML, Maple Leafs, let Lamoriello go. Good for New York Islanders. Well, I mean, look, sometimes we were talking about this on the show the other day, where they were talking about directors, and I often will compare directors to coaches. Sometimes you got a good coach or a good executive, and, they're just either, it's not a good fit anymore. You can have a great coach that's not a right fit for a team. You can have a great director that's not necessarily a right fit for that movie. You know what I'm saying? So I think it probably was just a matter of the whole corporate culture. They just probably say, this isn't the right fit anymore. Still a very good executive. But yes, very good for the New York Islanders. I think that's great for them. My all-time, like Toronto Maple Leafs are my all-time favorite team, but my all-time favorite singular isolated team was like the early 1980s New York Islanders. That was the team that got me into hockey. And because it was Brian Trottier, Clark Gillies, Denny Potvin, you had Smith in net, right? But best of all, you had Mike Bossy. Number 22, one of my all-time favorite hockey players, still to this day in my top 5. He was my favorite hockey player for a long time. Love that. So yes, good for the New York Islanders. Devontae Brown writes, could you find out if Walking Dead news is true? Well, I don't know. I don't have anybody specifically to talk to find out if it's true or not. Talking about the lead guy, right? There's rumors going around that the lead guy could be leaving the show after this upcoming season. Which, look, I'll tell you what I said when I first heard that rumor, which was, I don't find that all surprising because I'm not going to be surprised if this next upcoming season isn't the last season. Like, I feel like for the last couple of years, the news in the entertainment magazines every week is Walking Dead ratings down more. Walking Dead ratings down more. I mean, they're still pretty good, but they have dropped a lot and they continue to drop. And they've been going for a long time. You're about to have your 9th season. I mean, that's a hell of a run for television. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if the story is relatively true, because I'm not going to be surprised at all if season 9 isn't their final season anyway. I kind of got a feeling it's going to be the last season anyway. I mean, again, no one's told me that. That's just my guess. But I don't have anybody directly connected to the situation that I can just call and find out, to be honest with you. And that's, the television world, AMC network's not really anything I can talk to. And no, before anybody asks, AMC Television Network and AMC Theaters are two totally different things. They're not related in the least. Justin Welsh writes, "Hey, John, you always go on about AMC Prime and Dolby Dual Laser Projection System. In Canada, more Toronto, is there an equal place to get the same experience? I honestly don't know. I haven't been to a movie in Toronto in 10 years, 8 years. Honestly, I haven't been to a movie in Toronto in a long time. I've been living in LA now, going on, getting close to 10 years now. So I think it's close to 10 years, 10, 9, whatever. So no, and the few times I've been to the movies in Canada is always just in Hamilton that I've gone to movies when I'm there. So I really don't have any idea. There certainly wasn't back when I still lived there, but things changed pretty quick. So I would imagine there's got to be something similar there, but I just don't have any firsthand knowledge of it myself. Okay, next one comes to us from Dirk Diggler, who writes, "Hey John, just my opinion, but it drives me crazy that some fans think that Superman should behave, act, talk like the Superman of the past generations. It is nostalgic to reminisce, but that's just not our reality anymore." Oh, I'm right with you, Dirk. I'm completely with you on that. One of the things that drove me nuts in watching, and again, all film's subjective, everybody will react to a movie their own way, so that's fine. But I will admit it drove me a little bit nuts when I would hear people complain about Man of Steel, which I love. And when you really listen to their complaints, you're realizing, oh, they're upset because it's not the 1950s model of a Superman. And when you listen to them explain what their problems are, you realize, oh, what you're describing is that you wanted Superman to still be as the Superman from the 1960s or from the 1970s. That was great for a Superman in that era, but that's not this era. This Superman that Zack Snyder and Henry Cavill gave us, I think, is a perfect representation of what, Kal-El coming to Earth and being raised today here. This is what he would be like. This is what he would struggle with. This is what he would represent. So, again, you can't get mad at anybody because that's just the way they react to the film for whatever their reasons are. That's fine. But I do admit it would always make me go, "Arr!" It's like, this isn't 1950 anymore. It's not the 1960s. This is like the 2010s. And this was a more accurate representation, I believe, of what Superman would be like today. Still embodying all those ideals, but how it would be worked out would look different than it did in the 1960s. So, so I'm with you there on that. I mean, never get upset at somebody else for how they feel about a movie, but it does drive me a little bit crazy. I will admit that too, man. All right. Agaliasis writes, "Just wanted to say thank you for all you do." Oh, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate that. This is really nice of you to do. Thank you so much. Brimmick70 writes, "I'm concerned that a Star Wars cannot be divisive at this point. The haters seem to just want to hate for the sake of it. Could be a problem for them, us." Well, I don't know that that's the majority of people. I really think the people who want to hate it just for the sake of hating it, I believe they're a very small minority. Look, there are going to be people, whether it's with The Last Jedi, whether it's with Solo, whether it's the prequels, whether it's whatever, there are going to be people who just don't like it because they didn't like it. They watched the film and it didn't work for them. Yeah, sure, there will be a small segment that are going to hate it just for the sake of hating it because they've decided we want to hate this and we're going to try to get everybody else to hate it too. But they're a small segment. I think the majority of people that you'll come across that don't like this movie or that movie or whatever, they just don't like it because they watched it and they just didn't like it. And we got to be careful not to lump all those people just in one big pile. All film is subjective. And there's going to be people who watch a film that you like or that I like, and they're not going to like it because it just didn't hit them the right way. That's film. That's movies. There are movies that you watch that it didn't just hit you the right way, so you don't like it. Same with me, so I don't like it. And I think for the majority of people who walked away from either A Last Jedi or Solo or any Star Wars movie for that matter, and they didn't like it, they didn't like it just because they decided to hate it well in advance. They just didn't like it because it didn't work for them. And there's nothing wrong with that. So let's keep that in mind. There's nothing wrong with that. Luna Comics writes, my grandmother doesn't like it in she see, I think you probably meant if. My grandmother doesn't like it if she sees LGBT characters on TV or movies because she's very religious. And the tricky part is if you go against people like that, then they think you're discriminating against their religion. Thoughts? Well, here's the thing. It doesn't matter how much you don't like the color blue. You can hate the color blue for whatever reason you want. And if you hate the color blue, that's your business. But the fact of the matter is this. The color blue is a real color in our world. It's out there. It's real. It exists. Therefore, if you're going to make a movie that takes place in our world, or any other world for that matter, you're going to come across the color blue. It doesn't matter if you hate the color blue. It doesn't matter if you don't like the color blue. It doesn't matter if you don't like the color blue because of the way you were raised. It doesn't matter if you don't like the color blue for moral reasons. It doesn't matter if you don't like the color blue because of your religious upbringing. The color blue exists. Deal with it. And you can't, and that's fine. You can have whatever your reasons for what you don't like. I'm not judging you. I'm just saying, you can have whatever reasons you want for not liking what you like. Just don't expect the rest of us to mold our world around what you hate. The color blue is a very real color. It exists whether you like it or not. The color blue is in this room. The color blue is out there in my neighborhood. The color blue is in my city. The color blue is in my country. It's there. It's real. And just because you don't like the color blue, don't expect the rest of our population to stick their heads in the sand and window dress everything to not offend your sensibilities. It's a real thing. We're not going to pretend like it's not. Now, there are people out there who have a problem with other people in the LGBT community. And I'm not sitting here telling you you should or shouldn't have a problem. Whatever it is your thing, that's your thing. But don't for 1 second expect the rest of us to pretend like it's not a real thing. The LGBTQ, however, whatever acronyms you want to use, they're real. They exist. They're in our country. They're in our neighborhoods. They're in my circle of friends. And they're real and they exist. So guess what? Any movie that's going to show our neighborhood or our city or our country or our world, they're going to be part of it because that's reality. They are the color blue, whether you like it or not. And if you decide to take that, me just acknowledging the world for what it is somehow an attack on you, you need to take your head out of your ass. That me showing the color blue, me putting a camera outside and you see the blue sky, you're attacking me by showing a blue sky. No, I'm just showing the world for what it is. It has nothing to do with you. I'm just showing the world as it exists. It has nothing. Believe me, I am not thinking of you one bit when I'm showing the color blue. I'm not attacking you. You're not even on my mind. So if we make movies and film and television shows and art that shows that the color blue is in our world, it is not about attacking you. We don't care what you think. We're not thinking, oh, let's go get those people. No, we're just showing the world for what it is. And in our cities and in our communities and in our neighborhoods, the color blue exists. The LGBTQ community exists. And you can deny it all you want, and you can try to raise a fuss and say, by even acknowledging it exists, you're attacking us. No, we're not even thinking about you. We're just showing it because they're real people who live in our real world, and they exist. And acknowledging their existence has nothing the fuck to do with you. So get over yourself. I'm not coming in to tell you what to think, but this whole thing about if you even show and acknowledge that these people exist, you're attacking me. Oh my God, get over yourself. It has nothing to do with you. We ain't attacking you. We're simply showing the world as it is. So now I'm not going out of my way to make sure the color blue is in every single one of my shots if I'm making a movie. I'm not going out of my way to make sure that the main color scene in every single scene of my movie is the color blue. I'm not doing that. But guess what? If the color blue shows up in my film, it's because it just shows up in my film. But anyway, yeah, Luna, I mean, there's some people, look, I come from some traditional grandparents too, but they just got to get over it. It's not about them. It's about showing the real world. And any idea, any kind of notion to hide those people away, that is you trying to force your unrealistic view of the world on everybody else. It's the color blue. Whether you like it or not, it's real and it exists. And I'm not telling you you're this or you're that if you don't like the color blue. If you don't like the color blue, you don't like the color blue. Just don't expect the rest of us to pretend like it doesn't exist. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, Mark Nava writes, "Hey, John, I've been wanting to watch my blockbuster films in the best possible experience. What's the difference between AMC Prime and Dolby at AMC?" Somebody asked me this exact same question, and I'm going to give you the exact same answer. I'm not really sure. When I was at AMC, it was just AMC Prime, and that was the Dolby. Sorry, I just got a text message from somebody who's telling me something pretty funny. You know what? I'm gonna respond to this quick. Yeah, no, I'm not. I'll get to that later. Anyway, I honestly don't know what the difference is now. I don't work at AMC anymore. I'm not really connected. When I was there, it was all synonymous. Now maybe there might be some difference between AMC Prime and Dolby at AMC Prime. I'm not really super clear on it. I'll have to check that out. But like, again, you're not the only person to ask me. Somebody else asked me that before, and I still don't really know the answer. Mike Noir writes, "I hate that Solo is partially hurting because people are still in a mood about The Last Jedi." But, well, hold on a second now, Mike. I mean, the reality is it's not that big of a reason, but it is part of the reason. But there is nothing wrong with somebody. Look, if I go and see, I don't know, a 50 Shades movie, right? Let's say I go see a 50 Shades movie, and I really didn't like it. Well, why should I go out and see the next 50 Shades movie? So, I mean, there's nothing really to be mad about. Like, if there are people who went to go see The Last Jedi and they didn't like it enough so that they don't want to go to see the next Star Wars movie, that's kind of understandable. Wouldn't you and I be the same way? Like, if we're watching a 50 Shades of Grey movie and I really hate it, well, I'm a film critic, so I have to go see the next one. But honestly, if I go see 50 Shades of Grey and I don't like it at all, why would I go back and watch the next one? So if there are people out there who didn't like The Last Jedi, why should we expect them just to come back and see the next Star Wars movie if they didn't have a good experience at the last one? Some people do anyway, which is great, but we can't expect people to do that, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Let's see. Maurice Cook writes, "John, should the MCU make a She-Hulk movie? I don't think so. It's a little bit too derivative to me. It's one thing to do it in the comic books, to do it on the big screen. I think it's a little bit too derivative. I think it would be kind of cheap. Now, I'm not saying never, but right now it seems, yeah, like I said, just a bit too derivative." Christopher McLean writes, "Sad no Luke fight scene in The Last Jedi. Still loved it though. Oh God, nobody was more disappointed about there not being a legitimate Luke Skywalker fight scene than me. I also loved what they did. What they did was completely beyond what I was expecting. It was nothing like what I was hoping for, but it ended up being something I really loved. But still, I wanted to see Luke Skywalker's taking some fools to school. That's what I wanted to see. They gave us something different that I actually ended up loving. But yeah, man, you and me, you're preaching to the choir, my dude. You're preaching to the choir." Dean M. writes, "Love the show." Thank you so much, Dean. "Visiting Burbank soon from the UK. Oh, that's awesome. What are some must-do things while in the area? Warner Brothers tour booked, best cinema, best food places." I'm not really a hardcore foodie. I'm not the best person to ask about the best food places, although there is a place called Market City Cafe that is my favorite Italian food in all of Los Angeles. Now, I have never found any Italian food in Los Angeles that comes close to the Italian food in Canada, but the best place I've had in all of Los Angeles is a little Italian place in Burbank called Market City Cafe. So I recommend that place. Best cinema, go to the AMC Burbank 16. Check that one out. That's a theater that I go to most often than anybody else, or most often than anywhere else, I should say. Warner Brothers tour, go to Universal Studios. And make sure you take their tram tour too. They're two very different types of tours, but they're both awesome and really, really enjoyable. So make sure, get on that, D. Make sure you do both of those. Cobra writes, to keep with canon, surely Temuera Morrison has to play Boba Fett. Not at all. Or at least voice him. Nope. I mean, they didn't have Harrison Ford voice young Han Solo. You don't need to use the same guy. You don't. If you can have another actor completely come in and play a younger Han Solo, you can have a different actor and a different voice doing Boba Fett. It really, and it doesn't disrupt canon that much at all. So the audience will just get over it pretty quick. So I don't think you need to use him at all. Not that I'd be opposed. I wouldn't have a problem with them using him, not at all. But you don't have to use him either. That's just my opinion. Amy Singh writes, I'm saving my money for Jurassic World and The Incredibles. Yeah, I'm going to see The Incredibles this week. I'm very excited to see it. About 5 years too late, but that's okay. I'm just happy it's finally here. I'm going to be checking it out. And Tuesday morning, I'm going to go see Jurassic World. I've got my fingers crossed for that one. Dave Akins writes, being a Canadian, are you looking forward to a potential Alpha Flight movie? Not sure if the rights are Fox or Marvel. They're definitely with Fox because they're definitely part of the X-Men universe. Any Alpha Flight stuff is definitely with Fox. I'd be down for it, but I'll be honest with you, I'm not jumping up and down looking for it. I think it could be pretty cool, but then again, anything could be really cool if it's done right. But, seeing Vindicator and Puck and Sasquatch and North Star and all those people in there, sure, that would be a kick. Puck especially would be a real kick. But, I'm not jumping out of my seat for it. But if they announced they were doing one, yeah, I'd be kind of excited. And, of course, the fact that it's a Canadian thing, all the more important, too. Let's see. Dave follows up with, all this hard work you put into your content, hope you take a long vacation in the near future because God knows you deserve it. Thank you so much, Dave. You know what? It's funny because Ann and I were just talking about a little bit earlier tonight about vacation time and what we're going to do about vacation time. And the one of the challenges about doing this whole thing solo, like I have fact checker Jonathan and Ray working with me, and they're amazing. But when I used to run AMC and I had like a staff of 15 people, or I was running Collider, I had a staff of 20 plus people, I could go in at the operation, I could go away for a week and the operation just continues as normal. Unfortunately, if I step away for a few days, that means no videos for a few days. So I got to be a little bit more picky and choosy about when I go, but I am looking at taking some time off. So I'll let you guys know well in advance when I'm going to take some time off though. TunyTube writes, John, over or under 10%, episode 9 could beat Avengers 4 in 2019. I'll take the over on 10%. Now, I would take under 50 for sure. But at 10%, that's a really low number. So I'm going to take the over on 10%. 10% is too low of a number, so I'll take the over on that. Now, again, if I had to guess right now which one's going to make more Avengers 4 episode 9, I'll probably say Avengers 4. So I would take the under on 50%. But 10%, that's a low number. So I'll take the over on 10%. James Peter writes, saw Solo with my mother. She's only seen the Star Wars movies, and that cameo confused her. Bad for general audiences. No. General audiences have seen... I'm okay, James, I'm a little bit limited here about what I can and cannot say. I will say this. Most of the people in the general audience who are going to go see Solo have seen the appropriate movies that the cameo will mean something to them. For the most part. There are going to be some individuals like your mom, for sure. There are going to be some individuals like your mom that the cameo may go over their head. But I think most people who would go to see a Solo movie, they'll get the cameo. They'll understand the cameo. That's how I feel about it at any rate. Editor MG writes, Solo got applause in Columbia, South Carolina. Not a standing O like Rogue One did. A boycott on Solo isn't the way to get revenge on The Last Jedi. No, I mean, like I said, there's a difference between a lot of people who went to see The Last Jedi and didn't like it and just decide, oh, okay, I saw the last Star Wars movie, didn't like it, so I'm not going to go see the next one. There's nothing wrong with that. The boycotters is another thing. I mean, people who want to try to make other people not see something and make other people not like something, that's different. But I think the majority of people are just the innocent side. That, hey, they saw Last Jedi, they didn't like it, so they didn't want to come out to see the next one. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Roll Out the Reels writes, Justice League and Solo both had to go up against a Pixar film. Well, the Justice League one's a little bit different. The Justice League one, I believe, Coco opened the week right after Justice League. Like Justice League opened something like November 15th. Coco opened like on November 22nd. Incredibles 2, there's at least a couple of weeks separating Incredibles 2 from, at least I believe so. Let me just bring this up here. Incredibles 2 release date. The Incredibles 2 release date is June 15th. Yeah, so you got a couple of weeks. A number of weeks separating Incredibles 2 from Solo. So Justice League actually had it a little bit more rough than Solo does, because Justice League had Coco opening up the very next week. I mean, Coco wasn't a massive blockbuster, but it was a big film and something they had to deal with. Let's see. Hardy Buck 4 writes, thoughts on Roseanne cancellation and controversy. Not much controversy, man. You get up on a public stage, which is what Twitter is, and you say what she said. People are going to want to disassociate themselves from you. That's just the way it is. Like, she has the freedom of speech to say whatever she wants, but freedom of speech also means ABC gets to say, hey, we don't want to be associated with that. That's their freedom of speech, to say, hey, we disassociate ourselves from that. So, hey, look, I'm not going to sit here and judge the totality of Roseanne Barr's character based on one stupid thing she said. I'm not going to make a judgment on I don't know her. For all I know, she's a delightful person. I don't know. I just simply don't know her. But I do know she got on a public platform, which is what Twitter is. She got on a public platform and she said something really hurtful and very, very bad. And ABC decided and really had no choice but to go, we need to disassociate ourselves from you because we cannot be associated. That's bad for our business. It's bad for our brand to be associated with what you just did. So again, I'm passing no judgments on the totality of Roseanne Barr's character. I'm not, but I completely understand where they look. If I was with AMC, a company that's got to be very aware of their public perception and how people view them. If I was back with AMC back in the day and I got on Facebook and put up this public post of some homophobic rant on thing, they would have fired me like that. Not because they don't like me. A lot of the people at AMC like me, but they would have fired me like that because they had to. Because I put them in a position that they had to. And there would have been nobody to blame except me. And in this situation, there's nobody to blame but Roseanne Barr. And it is what it is, and hopefully she can recover from this. But yeah, I mean, ABC had no choice. They had to disassociate themselves from that. So that is what it is. Aga Liasis writes, does studios get any money from the DVD/Blu-ray and digital sales? Yes. I mean, it's their movie. So yes, they do. The thing is, there's this myth right now that they make almost as much money on Blu-rays and DVDs as they do in the movies. No. They're actually... It's a dwindling amount of money that they make from those things. They don't make nearly the profit margin that they do in the theaters. Like the money they make on home video sales and stuff like that can be helpful, but it's not nearly what it is in the theaters at all. Hardy Buck 4 writes, thoughts on Andrew Lincoln leaving Walking Dead? Well, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, I don't even know if that's true. And if it is true, I wouldn't be all that surprised because I've been suspecting season 9 is going to be the final season anyway. So, yeah, I mean, so there's that. Let's see. Juan Absent Good writes, I think The Big Show would work well in Princess Bride. We were talking earlier in an earlier show about how, could you do a Princess Bride reboot? And I'm like, yeah, fine, do it. I mean, if it's good, great. We've got another good Princess Bride movie. If it's bad, oh, well, we've still got the original. It's a no-lose situation. But I said the one tricky part, because most of the roles, like the two lead roles, were complete unknowns at the time. We talk about Robin Wright and Cary Elwes, or however you pronounce his name. They're basically unknown, so you can just cast unknowns. The tricky one is who do you replace Andre the Giant with? I suggested maybe a Shaquille O'Neal. Big Show wouldn't be a bad one either. Big Show might be an all right one. Brett Buckles writes, the Mountain from Game of Thrones is 6'9" and currently the world's strongest man. He would be a great giant in Princess Bride. Yeah, he wouldn't be bad either. I think if they did a Princess Bride remake and they put him in it, I'd be okay with that. But I think if I were the director and I had the choice of either Big Show or him, I'd probably go Big Show because he reminds me, he's got more of a body type like an Andre the Giant. So I would probably go Big Show, but I wouldn't object to the dude who plays the Mountain either. Troika S writes, was Infinity War a true movie about the bad guy? I don't really think so. Like, while he was kind of the main character in it, that movie was really treated more like a chapter of a larger story. And he just came in the final chapter. So I hesitate to say that Infinity War is a movie about the bad guy when really he's just a character who just kind of floated in the final chapter. You know what I'm saying? So I wouldn't argue with you. If you consider it that, I wouldn't argue it with you because I think you have some good basis to argue that. For me, I don't consider it that way. But like I said, I could totally see where you're coming from if you did. All right. Final email, and then we're wrapping up this episode of the companion videos. NPE94 writes, always interested how the MPAA are bothered more by sex than they are with violence. Exact opposites here in Europe. I'd be much more worried about my 7-year-old seeing The Dark Knight than Blue is the Warmest Color. I don't know about Blues. Like The Dark Knight, you don't have a lot of brutal, bloody, like horrific violence. Blue is the Warmest Color. There's some pretty explicit sex in that movie. Some beautiful sex. But I mean, and you know, I love the filthy. Bring on the filthy. But it is awfully explicit sex in that particular film. So I don't know if that's a good comparison. But yeah, the MPA gives something. It doesn't matter to me. I'm an adult. I can see whatever movie I want. So it doesn't really matter to me. So I see where you're going for. I just don't know that The Dark Knight is a good comparison to Blue is the Warmest Color. I would pick a more gory horror movie to compare to Blue is the Warmest Color since they're both like really explicit in what they're going into. But yeah, that's the way I feel about it. All right, guys, that will do it for this installment of the companion video. Thank you so much for being here. Don't forget, we take live questions on the John Campus Show and Open Mic every day. And if for whatever reason you send in a question and we don't have time to get around for it, it will pop up here on the companion videos. Okay, guys, that'll do it for me for now. Thanks a lot for joining me. My name is John Campia, and until the next video, bye-bye.